Hey, welcome to another episode of The John Gill Show. And on this episode, we're going to discuss how to properly screen your tenants. So if you like what you hear, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin. So what do you look out for when you are looking for a new tenant? You know, the biggest problem that I see new home buyers and investors face is finding the correct ways and methods to properly screen. And it's very simple. We're gonna get straight to it. Number one, you wanna make sure that you are checking their credit score. Okay, number two, you wanna make sure that you're checking their income. And number three, you are doing a verification of rent, calling their landlord, verifying that they have paid on time. And let's dissect each one. So going back to the first one, tenant screening. Where do you go to actually do that? So what we use is zumper.com. You know, it's a free service that you can quickly send a link to that tenant prospect right there, and then they're gonna get an email link. They're gonna fill out their information, the rental application. It's gonna put, once they fill out their social security number, you'll get back their full application. It's gonna have their credit score. Now, from my understanding, I think they pull from just one of the credit bureaus, so you're not gonna get all three. If you didn't know, there are three different credit bureaus. There's TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And when you have those scores, by the way, you typically look at the middle one. So what does that mean? One score might be 700, another score might be 640, and say the middle one might be 670. So, you know, what most lenders go off of is not the top, not the lowest, but the middle. And most times you'll see that TransUnion will represent that middle score. Not always, but usually. And so what Zumper does, from what I've seen, I believe that they pull from TransUnion, and that'll give you a solid score, a good number that will demonstrate their credit worthiness. Okay, now what credit score should you consider? You know, that's going to be your own opinion. You know, we look at a minimum of about 640, but there are some landlords that can go up as high as 700, some even higher than that. So it's really just going to depend on your risk tolerance, and that's really it. So, you know, but again, you're not going to solely base your opinion on that credit score. You're going to want to do a little bit more digging and more research, because there's nothing worse than bringing in a tenant that makes one payment and then the following month stops making payment and has gamed the system. And next thing you know, you're spending, they're in there for 3, 4, 5 months, maybe more, especially now with COVID. And if you're in Chicago, I think in December, there's a moratorium. They can't even get evicted. So, you know, keep that in mind. So now that we've passed on credit, you want to look at their income. What exactly are you looking for? Well, if they're a wage earner, you're going to want to look at their paycheck stubs, at least the last. If they get paid weekly, you're going to want to look at the last 4 paycheck stubs. And if they get paid bi-weekly, you're going to want to look at the last 2. So you're going to want to have at least a full month's total, and verify that what they filled out on the rental application matches what's on the paycheck stub. And then you can also look at the year to date as well, and just divide that by the year to get a rough estimate of what they've actually made. All right. And believe it or not, there are some people that might falsify their paycheck stubs. You know, they're pretty good at Photoshop. So you can take it one step further and call up their employer to verify that information. I've seen it happen, and it's not uncommon. So especially now with so many people that were taking advantage of the non-payment and of COVID, you know, it's now that the moratorium is over and they're starting to look for different apartments, they're going to get a little bit desperate and might start doing a little bit more of that fraud. So keep that in mind, okay? And the third thing that we look out for is the verification of rent. So what is that exactly? Well, that just means that you're going to call the landlord up and verify that the tenant has paid on time. You're going to want to check that the rental amount matches what's on the rental application. Then you're going to ask, have their payments been made on time? Okay, and then, you know, I would dig even deeper and ask, you know, did that tenant, leave the apartment in a good standing? Meaning, did they break any walls? Did they damage the apartment? Those are the sort of things that you're going to want to find out. Now, what I left out at the beginning, and is kind of an extra step that some landlords take, is if there's still that doubt, you can actually go and tell the prospect, hey, do you mind if I go visit you at your place? And I know that's taking it, way to the next level, but some landlords have done that, and they go and see that the tenant is living, in a clean environment, that they're not a hoarder, that they're not damaging the unit. So those are all key steps that you're going to want to do to ensure that you are bringing in the right person into the property. All right. There's nothing as important as laying a solid foundation from the beginning. So to recap, credit check, income verification, last but not least, the verification of rent. And one thing that I did miss earlier on was, say that person is self-employed and is not a wage earner, right? Like, what if they don't have a paycheck stub? How do you verify that income? Well, what we tend to do is you can just look at the taxes, right? You can look at the tax returns. And something else that you can look at is their bank statements. So, you can take their bank statement and verify that the deposits match what their current earnings are. But as anyone who's in the self-employed business knows, sometimes you have better months than others. And so what you could do is take an average of all of the deposits of the year to get an average. And that's a great way to verify, okay? And then as far as the income that they should be making relative to the rent, that's going to be about 3 times the rent payment. So for example, if you're renting your unit out for $1,000, you want to make sure that at least their income is $3,000. All right, that'll leave that's about a 33% ratio there. That's gonna that's gonna leave them enough money for their other expenses, right? Their utilities, their meals, their entertainment. So you want to make sure that they're not redlining their monthly expenses, and you're left with someone that's not paying or that consistently pays behind. All right, so I hope you liked that information. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much.